But what if the best game I played this year wasn't even a good video game? And that's when everyone's, you're thinking, holy, like, what? Not a good video game. This is nuts. This is crazy. It's amazing. And I'm like, I'm with you. It's nuts. It's amazing. It's a nuts thing to say. But the premise behind my belief is that, it's such a good story. It's such a good artistic achievement that it didn't even need to be a good game. So I'm just going to dive right into this and sort of discuss what I mean. So, in one sense, The Last of Us is like any other typical video game. In fact, the video gamey parts, like, kind of suck sometimes. For example, the combat is good. You feel the weight of the combat. You feel the sometimes the emotional drain of the combat, and there's no question that the game is solid in that respect. But at a certain point, once you've hit a guy with a 2x4 27 times, it's the same the 30th time. And that's the issue with most video games is how do you communicate diversity? How do you make something cool 300 separate times? And I think the answer to that is that you just can't. And so I think Last of Us makes that issue pretty well known. Like, Last of Us struggles from that too. The 300th hit with a 2x4 is suddenly uninteresting. The 5th time you upgrade a gun, it doesn't feel like it matters. The 7th Firefly tag you grab in the collectibles, it's kind of seems to blur together, right? These are video game things. And let me get this straight. Like, Last of Us struggles with these things just like anything else. And it struggles with them to the extent that you're literally putting a floating pallet of wood down for Ellie to swim on like 7 times in the game, and she even comments this again. And like, bravo for the fourth wall. Like, that you've been doing this over and over, or grabbing a ladder and standing it up against the right wall so you can climb. You do that at least 5 times. Okay, but enough bullshitting around this. Like, look, the game has all these video game things, all these bad video game things. And by the way, I said for Ellie to swim on. What I should have said was for her to avoid having to be in water because she can't swim with the pallet, that is. But it has all that, and it still blew me away. And it's old, and that's not a big deal, but it still blew me away. And why did it do that? Why was Last of Us that good that it could overcome being a video game to be the best video game I played this year? Man, the answer to that is like just so it's so filmic, like it's so film based. Like, man, the acting in that game was some of the best acting I've ever seen in a video game, ever heard in a video game. The writing and the delivery. There's a few lines, and of course, if you haven't noticed by now, spoilers are going to happen here. This is an old game. I'm just talking about this game for hopefully 20 minutes. But, there are moments in that game where I forget that they're not people. Like, there's one time where Ellie and Joel, for those that haven't played the game and don't care to, you are Joel most of the time. You are a middle-aged man in the post-apocalyptic future who's lost his family, who is now looking after a girl who has maybe the key to humanity's survival in her genes because she's immune to a disease. Anyway, Joel is a reluctant caretaker. And there's an early point in the game where Ellie, the little girl, she finds out about the fact that Joel lost a daughter around her age many, many years ago. She was killed. And she attempts to broach the subject with Joel and say, listen, Joel, I'm sorry about Sarah? I think it was Sarah. I'm sorry about Sarah. And I'm sorry about Tess, or Actually, yeah, it was Tess. Sorry, my apologies. It was Tess, Joel's friend, who died in the process of saving Ellie. Anyway, the nuts and bolts aren't necessarily relevant, but what is this line? She says, "Look, Joel, I'm sorry about Tess. I'm sorry she died." Essentially, as he's sitting there, slumped down, wondering what the fuck he's gonna do with his life, and he says, "Listen." I'm not even gonna do it justice, but it's really fucking good. He says, "Listen, here's how this is gonna go. You don't talk about Tess ever. You don't bring it up. You don't say anything. You follow me, and we just get through this bullshit." Basically, I'm paraphrasing now, but it was to the point where I was like, "Holy shit!" Like, just the way it's delivered. You don't talk about Tess ever, like ever, and I believed it, right? And as you go through the game, it's clear that this relationship is key. But it's not just a relationship, it's the world building too. When you're walking through the world of Last of Us, one of the reasons why the game is so compelling, it's not because you smash a dude's head against the wall and you can't smash it if there's no wall. Yes, that was interesting tech back in the day. But it's when you're walking through an overgrown village and Ellie asks what the hell an ice cream truck is. Because she's never seen one. She's never been outside. And and the kid, there's another kid with you at the time, he explains to Ellie, yeah, these are called ice cream trucks. Like, they deliver ice cream. And Ellie says, "Bullshit. That sounds like utter bullshit. What do you mean deliver ice cream? What the fuck is that?" So she asked Joel. And again, Joel's response typifies why this game is so fucking good. Because he's like, yeah, come to think of it, ice cream trucks are pretty goddamn weird. It's true. Used to play creepy music and drive around, and all the kids would run out and buy ice cream from them. And she still didn't buy it. Ellie still didn't buy it. And as an artistic product, the best product, in my opinion, is the product that makes you consider how fucked up your life is. In, like, a good way. Like, how fucked up everything is. How weird it is. How weird words are. How weird humanity is. How strange love is. Whatever the case may be. But, like, in this case, it was really just how fucking weird as ice cream trucks are. And to me, that's fucking cool, man. Like, that is cool. Because there's a time where the game understands to be deep, and it's really, really deep. There's times where the game understands it's got to be dark and emotional and hard, and there's tons of that too. But there's also times where the game realizes, like, holy shit, these are supposed to be people. Like, these are actually just supposed to be fucking people. And that's pretty important. It's pretty important to realize that your characters are not just vessels towards getting to an end or being deep or slapping the gamer across the face or whatever it was. And the ice cream truck example is perfect as an encapsulation for just being in the moment with those people. And I'm sitting at the chair, and the beautiful thing about I'm sitting in my gaming chair, and the beautiful thing about Last of Us is it knows the pacing too. It knows after you fight like 10 zombies that you probably don't want to fight them anymore. So you walk down the street and you look at a house with spray painting on it saying "don't loot or I'll shoot" kind of thing, and they talk about that, and you walk a little more and they talk about the ice cream truck, and you walk a little more and you find some loot, you craft some items, and then you walk a little more, and then some more shit goes down. But like, it's the quiet points that matter, not the game points, right? And there's a ton of moments about that in the game, like around that in the game, that are just exceptional. But it does get emotional too. And it hits on those strides also. It's not just trying to be funny. It's not just like a comedian standing there. Or it's not just Like, you can probably pretty much guess that it wasn't just trying to be funny, right? But it really isn't, but it understands what it's trying to go for. And when things get more serious, there's a point when Joel becomes injured too. And as he's injured and you realize it's serious, he's being helped by Ellie, and he looks like he's gonna die. Okay, he looks like he's going to die at this point, and she makes the slightest wisecrack. It doesn't focus the camera. It doesn't make you listen to it, but it's there, and it's there in such a way that it sits with you if you get it. It sits with you if you remembered it. It sits with you if you listen to it and you're paying attention. But if not, you're not going to miss that much. But she says she says to Joel, as he's bleeding out, looking white as a ghost, she says, "Man, if we get through this, you are for sure singing for me." And he says, "Yeah, you wish." And the reason this matters is because she found out maybe 2 hours prior that what he wanted to be as a little kid was a singer. Believe it or not, a singer, he says, as they ride on horseback. And you've kind of understood their closeness at this point, and it wasn't always a given that they were going to be together and be companions, like willing companions, but they do. And he says, "Yeah, I wanted to be a singer." And she says, "No fucking way, bullshit, sing for me right now." He said, "Hell no." And I get that. Like, I get that. You know, who wants to sing on command? Even if you wanted to be a singer, who wants to sing on command, motherfucker? Like, screw that. But so she picks this one moment 3 hours later, 2 hours later, where she says, "You're fucking singing for me after this shit. After this bullshit you put me through, getting fucking shanked by a fucking rebar chunk." And so it's stuff like that. It's just that's where the game leaves like ghosts behind with you. That's where, if you're me and you overthink things, that's when you really feel rewarded, right, by the game, because you remember hearing about that, and then now it feels genuine, and the connection is real. The language is believable. The approach is humorous, but not heavy-handed, and that's what's special, really. That's what's really special about the game. And again, this is nothing unique to a video game, to a piece of art. This is to a movie, to anything. Good acting is good acting. Good characters are good characters. Good writers are good writers. You know? It's all one and the same. So the aspects of Last of Us that are amazing, that blew me away, that made me actually cry, are the aspects of just being fucking human beings. Are the aspects of art in motion, in vision, in speech, in text, whatever you want to put it, however you want to do it. It's like at a point where I loved the experience so much I didn't care if there was a controller or there wasn't. And I'm a gamer. Like I love video games. But it's a masterclass about humanity in that medium, and in that way transcends that medium, transcends video games, you know? And that's pretty damn special, you know? It really is. And the way that Last of Us ends, they also know one thing that a lot of games don't, and I've suggested it here, and that's restraint. And I talked with my friend Eric about this. Restraint. So few things understand restraint. But when they do, and they do it right, it feels really good. The way things go, you know, Joel ends up lying to Ellie, and you almost think like she knows that, but they're going to be together anyways. So they're going, and things have changed, and the game's about to come to a close, and she stops him and says, "Hey, tell me that everything that you said to me back there was real." And he says, stone face, yeah, it was. But you know, as the gamer, you know that it's not. It wasn't true. It wasn't true. And then they hold on her face, they hold the look on her face, and the game cuts. The rising music in the game cuts to credits. Black like The Sopranos. Done. Cut. Over. Credits roll and you're just like, holy fucking shit. And it didn't matter if that was big to you, right? It didn't matter if that was big to Joe, Bob, Susie, Steven, Alex, whoever. It just mattered that that was the right way to end it, right? And I find myself struggling with this too. It's like sometimes I want to be a writer. I want to write a book or something, but I'm always like trying to search for the bigger way to say something I want to say. But the reality is that the smaller way, the more restrained, pulled back way, that's what you really want sometimes, because that's what's real, man. How many times do people lie to you and you're never gonna find that out? And it doesn't mean anything big, and it doesn't necessarily like make a larger pull to anything. Now, obviously, this will, because there'll be a Last of Us 2 coming this year, which you best believe I'll be buying. But the point I'm making is, even in that moment, from the ice cream truck to the lie to everything, the game is not trying too hard. It's just not. And when it tries its lightest amount, it puts its lightest amount of pressure on, it's when you get the gems somehow. The ice cream truck, the time when he's sitting next to a guy who wanted to ride motorcycles his whole life, and he tells that guy, oh, I rode a motorcycle cross country before all this went to shit. Pardon my dog, but and the guy says, well, how was it? Talk to me. It's a Harley Davidson. Talk to me about the motorcycle. And Joel says, it was good. And he's like, it was good? Excuse me? That's all you got? It was good. Can you believe this guy? It was good. I'm asking him to describe to me something I'll never experience in my life, and he says, it was good. And they all laugh, and I'm laughing. You know? Because those are real people. I know people like that who would say that, you know, both sides of that conversation. And it's not even necessarily about the relatability of it so much as just the believability of it. So even if you don't know somebody like these people, at least you know them as fellow human beings, right? And so many games, they just don't know how to do that. So many games is like the character is a silent protagonist and a vessel to your experience of a world or something. But Last of Us is never that. It's just about people doing human stuff in shitty situations. And sometimes that's profound, and sometimes that's boring, and sometimes it's neither. It's just neutral as fuck. And that's cool. But the points where the game struggles is when it actually plays. Because you realize that the areas you're in are like boxed off by police tape or wire, and it's not an open world, so you can't really see the world properly. You only see the snippets of what they give you, and then, even then, you're only killing like the wave of guys it has prepped for you. So when you die, you're coming back to do it again, or when a clicker zombie bites your throat out, you're loading it back up, and you have to suspend the disbelief that these characters aren't dead, that never happened, you know, these kind of things. So these kind of things aren't an issue. Like, the game was fun. I enjoyed the game, but I'm saying it didn't need to be a video game. And that, yet, somehow, that's what makes it the best video game that I played this year. And, like, how is that for, like, a hot take, I guess? Like, it's not a hot take, because this is years old, this game, and nobody gives a fuck what I think. But how's that for a hot take anyway? The best video game wasn't even a good video game. It was a great, a phenomenal artistic experience about human beings. And I really, really fucking hope I play more video games like that. And I'm sure they can be better game wise. Like Last of Us is held back by being a limited scope, limited view, third person. Let's find collectibles. Let's kill people. Let's craft some mediocre changes to your guns or whatever. Like, it's held back by those things. So I'm sure there's games out there that maybe have done or will do or can be better than Last of Us story wise and game wise. I've just yet to see those things. So if you're going to ask me, like, would you rather play Call of Duty, which I love and is a great game? I'm talking about multiplayer. Let's actually maybe not use Call of Duty, because I actually do want to say things about the campaign in a different episode. But instead of saying, you know, let's, what the hell was I saying now? You can tell it's been a long time since I've podcasted. Didn't prepare any notes, didn't do anything. If you've stuck with me this long, thanks. This is really just for me. Had to say this, had to get this somewhere, and I have a fucking podcast, so I may as well goddamn put it on here, right? Right? But if you play a game, you play, like, let's say you're playing Siege, because it doesn't have any story. Rainbow Six Siege, great video game. Great mechanical video game, some issues here and there, blah, 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 I'll save you the spiel. But if you're asking me if I'd rather play Siege as a great video game or Last of Us as a okay video game but amazing human experience, I'll pick Last of Us. I would say to you that that's the best. That's the best expression of a video game can do. And I would like to say that I think I've learned some things about being a potential artist, about being a potential writer, I should say, from that game. And I think it'll make me better. But it sure as shit affected me as a human. There's zero question about that. And for that reason, The Last of Us fucking rules. And that is all. Thank you so much.